Welcome to RPG Book Club. On today's episode, there is a crab in the game. A crab in this game.
Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little chunk of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Michael Webben.
I am Sam Allman.
And I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And today we're going to be continuing our play of Rogue Galaxy to the end of Chapter 8, Chasing the Legend, with a bonus stop on Alistia, the optional planet. So before we start, how are y'all doing this week?
I am doing great. I actually did almost everything for this playthrough about 2 weeks ago. So I wrote all of my notes from watching a Let's Play because I didn't write them in the moment. So I know that the Let's Play I was doing did them in a different order than I did, so they didn't get any of the Mark stuff during Zerard, because they did Zerard first. So they got the first Mark thing, but I know in my playthrough, and obviously y'all's playthrough, because we did them in the same order, y'all got like 50 Mark things. So I'm going to be deferring to you guys, because I don't remember what happened.
My favorite is the part where you get like a double, like a 2x Mark combo, Bob. Like you go to the save point and you touch it and you get a Mark thing, and then it goes back to your control and you're now slightly off of the save point. So then you walk 2 more steps and you're like, no, I need to save. And you walk 2 more steps onto the save point and the screen fades to black again. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, come on. Just let me play the game and save it.
So the Let's Play I was watching, they did Zerard first, so they never got the 2x, because I think you were supposed to play Zerard first, even though in game they listed them in a different order. Like maybe you're supposed to be like, oh yeah, well that's the order you want me to do them in. Well, I'm going to do them in the opposite order. Like they try to like reverse psychology or something. And so you get the Mark things like the first one and only one in Zerard, and then you get one in the next planet, and then one after that, and it spreads it out. Yeah. But since we did it last, it's just all Mark all the time.
It's quite interesting, actually, speaking of that, because, so this is open-ended chapter, right? Mm-hmm. But it really does seem like, I mean, I know that a lot of the time, the way that, like, you know, it's sort of a myopic point of view, but I did it in a certain way, the same way we all did. Well, I know, Sam, you did it differently, but the way that we decided to do it, where we did Vidan, and then Sharika, and then Gerard, and it seemed to make so much sense that way that I am how did the game designers think that we were going to do it? Like I could see doing Jarika and then Vidan, but it really just makes the most sense in every single way to do Zerard last. It's the biggest one. Mm-hmm. It's the hardest one. It's also it's the one set in the big city. It's the one that's more connected to other stuff. It's it's funny that they give you the option of doing it a different way, because it seems like that's by far the sensical order as far as the dramatic development of the arc.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Sorry. My answer for how is everyone, I said Rogue Galaxy is good, but I'm great. Continue, Eli.
I actually got a long weekend last week because I won DreamHack tickets from work. Which is pretty sweet.
I found out then, because I got every time they offer me DreamHack tickets, I'm just like, I don't care about esports, but they have their own Games Done Quick now. It's not Games Done Quick, but it's a charity speedrunning marathon that runs the whole week of DreamHack.
And I was going to mention that.
Yeah, sorry. I just saw it because over the weekend was Power Up with Pride, and I was watching that one. But at the same time, there were 3 speedrunning marathons. So there's Power Up with Pride, the one at DreamHack, and then there was one for racing games all at the same time. And
it's like they're speedrunning speedruns,
right?
We were wandering around on Saturday, and I heard do 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 do, and I went, oh, that's Zelda 2. I'm gonna go watch that. And then it was a speedrun, and I was like, I'm definitely watching this. So I just stood there off to the side, enraptured, as I watched a guy speedrun a fucking hard video game for a while.
Yeah, Zelda 2 owns, and speedrunning Zelda 2 sounds hard.
Yeah. So
now I'm definitely going to try and go to DreamHack every single year, because now I want to go, because I can't. Lord knows I can't afford GDQ, and all like the only other one that's an in-person one is Calithon and RPG Limit Break, which both are not here. And so the fact that like, oh, I can go see my baby after watching speedruns all day, that sounds great. I want to go to DreamHack now.
Yeah, it was super cool. They had a lot of different stuff. There were esports things. We watched a guy blow up in PUBG. Which like I would never play PUBG, but it can be interesting to watch. And mostly I spend way too much money on Pokemon toys. The end.
They're so cute.
I bought Ken a big Magikarp plushie, and he is so in love with it. It's adorable.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Match made in the waters of Kanto.
When that PUBG guy blew up, was he like, wow, this blew up. While you're here, check out my SoundCloud.
No.
Oh man, that's totally what a hero, like a action movie hero / DJ should do before he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie. He's like, while you're here, check out my SoundCloud.
Wow, this blew up.
And then he saves the day, and the villains are in jail. And then the final scene of the movie, they have headphones on, and they're like, man, this guy's stuff is pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my weekend. It was pretty fun.
What about you, Spiff? How was your weekend?
Interesting. So I'm up here in California, in Assembly District 18, and anyway, right over next door to us in Berkeley, to Assembly District 15, they have some really cool electoral stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, me and my wife have been doing a lot of campaigning for a local political candidate, and the primary was last night. So I actually haven't checked the results yet because you showed up and we started recording. So after this, I'm gonna see how it went and see if the candidate I like got. She wouldn't have gotten first place because it was a really high profile candidate. But if she gets second place, then she gets to go on to the actual election in November. So here's hoping. Although actually the candidate we were campaigning for the most, I couldn't actually vote for because it's not my district; it's the district next door.
Oh, damn.
My district didn't have anything interesting going on, so there wasn't really anyone to campaign for that was like an exciting candidate. It's like, yeah, I'll just vote for this person because they're the lesser of two evils, whatever.
So what you're saying is they bought paid protesters from a nearby district. So this election is rigged.
God, I wish I was paid. Honestly, the whole time we were like doing canvassing and stuff, I was like, man, I really wish all those conspiracy theories about George Soros were true because I could use those sweet Soros bucks right now. But no, I'm volunteering and I'm not getting paid and I'm super broke and I hope we actually win. That's actually a good campaign rhetoric line when you're talking with someone and you're basically, because like our candidate Javanka Beckel, she's corporate free,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's good to be able to say like, that other candidate, if you've talked with any canvassers from them, they're paid to canvass you. I'm doing it as a volunteer because my candidate isn't a giant corporate shill with tons of money.
Yeah.
We're all broke, aren't we? All broke. Let's vote for broke people.
Yeah. Broke people.
Who are you gonna trust? A person who's not broke,
right?
But yeah, so I'm real tired, but yeah, having a good time.
Yeah. Speaking of politics and class warfare, let's go on a vacation to Alistia, guys.
Woo!
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much going on with Alistia.
Yeah.
I love this place.
It was.
Yeah, it's Final Fantasy X planet.
Yeah.
I mostly love the people there.
Yeah, no, the designs are so good. It's like this is. The dumber and weirder this game gets, the more I like it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel the
when
same
it's
way.
trying to be like a serious anime game, I'm like not interested. When it's like, hey, this character design, we literally just put a fish head on top of a bipedal body.
It's not a fish head. It's an entire fish body.
Sorry, their head is an entire fish, and I'm like, yeah, I'm here for this. This is
It's like the goldfish boy from Gumball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Alistia it's gorgeous too. Oh my gosh, the music
really
and the blue sky and the ocean and the game rules. So anyway, yeah, Alistia, it's optional, but we all decided to do it.
Mostly so this episode won't be 5 minutes long.
Yeah. So like, what else are we gonna do, right? Not do the optional thing. So yeah, we decide to say, hey, instead of doing this next mission that the plot makes very clear has like a time sensitive element to it.
Nah,
Like,
we're
we
going on
have to
fucking
get there
vacation.
before Datron does. Let's have a vacation in Alistia.
Resort planet.
Yeah, like you get your first key piece and you're back on the Dorgenark and you're like, all right, what are we doing? And everyone's like, this is really important, but we should go and have a beach vacation because the planet's only open a couple of months a year and we got to jump in on it now. And so
and
we
I gotta
do.
say, maybe it's a budget thing, but I'm glad that they didn't have a swimsuit episode.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
That's such a dumb cliche that's annoying. Maybe they couldn't afford it, so they're like, guys, bad news.
They just
we gotta cut the super skeevy swimsuit chapter. And everyone's like, "Aw, we have to make a dungeon."
So all of those people were like, "Aw, can we just put all of the swimsuits on Lilica then?" And they're like, "Okay, sure." And so every single one of Lilica's outfits would have been a swimsuit from this chapter.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I saw that you
Jasper wears.
I saw that you found the red armor for Lilica as well, Eli, in your Let's Play. Like that is the coolest fucking impractical girl armor I've seen in a very long time.
I love it.
Wait, what's that one called?
It's called like her. Oh, it's
warrior
not night
something.
warrior.
I think.
Yeah, it's like jungle warrior or like
maybe
I
like
can't remember
knight
exactly.
armor, warrior
Templar
armor, something like
or
that.
something. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it's called.
I think I didn't find it, but I also did find at least one armor that I didn't put on anybody because they weren't Kisala or Digo, so I didn't care. So yeah, I don't know. I'll try and check that out too.
Yeah, it's like
if it looks that cool.
It's like Saint Seiya armor. Like
yeah,
it's dope as hell. But
nice.
So they tell us that this is a protected planet and it's only open a couple of months a year, and so we go down there and find out that there's a Datron factory that dumps waste into the oceans. And I'm like, you're not that protective of a planet. Like, what will closing the spaceport for 9 months do when there's a factory just literally killing off your indigenous life forms?
I can see how that happens. It's like, look, it's already closed, but Datron, being a giant corporation with tons of money and is in cahoots with the government, managed to sign some kind of deal that says, oh, but we can still do our business here. And yeah, and they're in a cozy relationship. It's that happens in America and other places.
So what it actually reminds me of, and it was sad because I read this Star Wars book, and then like 6 months later, Trump became president, and he signed like no more parks. Everyone can drill for oil anywhere, and that's literally what the Empire did right before Rogue One. Is there were all of these legacy planets that were protected, and they would say, "Oh, there's a terrorist cell here. We have to go and blow it up, and then while we're here, we'll remove its legacy status and then build a giant Death Star factory on it." And like that's kind of what Alistia is.
There is truth in fiction,
right?
Yeah. It also reminded me of another Star Wars thing, very obviously. It's the main conflict is very similar to that of the planet Naboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the land people and the sea people, and they don't like each other.
Which is weird.
The fish people are on land this time, and the human people are in the water.
Yeah, so that's...
I expected, when they said mermal, I expected like a mermaid.
And she's definitely mermaid-ish, and since her people live underwater, I have a
she
feeling
is
there's
a
like
human with fins for ears.
She's basically a dirty elf, just
she's a space elf. She's a space elf that fucked a fish. Let's be real.
Basically, yeah. She's got she has like little fins, but only like anime. Like it's like in sort of anime thing where like cat ears or tail or fins are just purely aesthetic and don't actually matter.
She's the daughter of a space elf that fucked a fish.
Yeah.
Okay,
I said that wrong. I said that wrong.
So my headcanon is that they are mermaids. That's just her land form.
Okay.
And so when they go into when she goes into the water, that's when she gets her tail.
Like in Splash.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm feeling is that it's a magical girl transformation.
Yeah.
Like you saw her like Enigma Stone. Like that's definitely magical girl. Like that's straight up.
Also, every time they say mermal, I can't help but think of Nermal, like from Garfield.
I don't ever interact with Garfield. I don't get that reference.
Nermal is like this other
It's
cat from Garfield. It's like a dark gray cat, and Garfield has a interesting relationship with Normal. Like they don't like each other, but also they clearly like each other.
Beautiful.
Garfield's dumb. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we go to land on Alistia, right? And they use this badass FMV to like set the stage, and I love it. Where we're like flying in super low, like skimming the water, and we just barely clear the village, and all the sleegs, the fish people, look up, and they're just like, "What? It's a pirate ship?" And then we land in the water like an actual pirate ship, and we come up to like a water dock to park the ship, and it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good because I'd legitimately been wondering this whole game, like, can the space boats also be regular boats? And now we see.
Answer.
Now we see.
Yes.
Maybe that's why they have the design they do. Maybe it's like, well, if you want to do sea landings, we got to have a boat shape. So
Yeah.
we might as well be boat shaped.
Maybe that's how we'll take down the Emperor in the space battle that's inevitably going to happen, because Chekhov's gun, there's a new spaceship, we're going to fight it. Like, that's how it works. So we're going to be in our dog fight. We're going to go to Alistia and land, but since that one's not boat shaped, it'll just sink to the bottom and we'll win.
It'll try to land. It'll be like, we'll challenge it to a game of horse.
Yeah.
And what we do is we land on the water, and then they try it, and they just go straight down to the bottom.
We win!
Yay!
Yeah. One thing I want to say about the sleegs that I find really, like, also bizarre is, like, not only are they fish people, but they could also be mammal people. They can be cetacean people, and they can be shark people.
Yeah.
Like,
Is one of them a mammal? Oh, right.
one of them's a walrus. There's a walrus and a dolphin.
Walrus and a dolphin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea how that species works at all.
Yeah,
I love it.
I guess if you live in the water, you're a sleeg, but you're now land dwelling, because that makes sense.
So I was doing a tabletop campaign in Spelljammer. Don't know if you're familiar with that is, but it's Rogue Galaxy in D&D. Pretty much, it's like you have pirate ships, and you fly through space and do your magic, but in space. And in the world I was doing, I used the concept of a tiefling to then be literally every alien you could think of would fall under tiefling, because it was all just like in that one it was basically Loki, the trickster goddess. She just would like be like, well, this tiefling's going to be a starfish, because why the fuck not? And that's what the sleegs reminded me of while I was doing it. I was like, this doesn't make sense, but I mean, I did the same thing with tieflings, so they're all the same race, but not at all, and I love it. So
yeah, absolutely.
So after we explore the town and load up on the good ass gear that they have there, we hear some people fighting, and we have Dolphy Boy Fritz and Sharky Boy Joust. And
it's Jaws. It's Jaws. No,
oh yeah,
it is pronounced Joust, but it's Jaws.
It's Jaws. So and they're like fighting with these other sleegs that are there, because the Datron factory has been dumping waste, which is killing the mermals, and they've kidnapped their friend Nina, and all the other sleegs are just like, well, fuck them, they're mermals, we hate them, like that. This is good, like fuck those underwater assholes. And then Dolphy Boy is like, but they're Alistians, and we have to help. And
who does he think he is, Jaster?
Right? And so then everybody is racist for a bit, and is like, well, she's a no good dirty mermal, that water dweller, like fuck her, like she's if you want to help, that's your problem. And then Sharky Man shows up and is like, for Nina, I'll do it, don't get in my way, Dolphy Boy. And Dolphy Boy's like, too bad. And then they run past us, and we're like, we'll help, and they're like, fuck you. And and so then, as is tradition, we meddle in things that don't involve us, and we follow them, if only to make life miserable for Datron.
Yes.
And then on the way out of the village, we hear some other sleegs saying that Dolphy Boy and Sharky Man stole the Enigma Stone, but they're so nice, they would never. And we begin our journey through this dungeon. What did you guys think of this outside dungeon? I know we've already said we loved it, but like more specifically, what did you like about it?
It made me a little upset, honestly, because it did something wonderful that I I didn't. Okay, so it's this huge outdoor area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I love, one of my favorite things you can do in a video game, I'm very easily pleased,
Mm-hmm.
is all you gotta do to be happy in a video game is very early on in an area, let me see something way far away in the horizon,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, that's clearly a skybox. And then I go through the level in real time,
Mm-hmm.
seamlessly, without any tricks, and eventually get there. And you can see the Daytron factory really far away, and it's really far.
Mm-hmm.
And as you progress through the level, you'll keep getting another view of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a third of the way through and you see a cliff, and oh, it's closer now. And then a third of the way more, oh, there's a cliff. Oh, it's even closer now. And then finally you get there, and it's so cool. And what I like is, and it's not just that, just the big outdoor environment's cool. But here's the thing: so much of this game is hallways, like
Mm-hmm.
literal hallways.
Yeah.
Or like forest hallways. I kind of thought that they didn't have the capability to do that kind of thing, like technologically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that they couldn't actually render these really, really large areas seamlessly, and that's why there were so many hallways.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get to this level, it's like, wait, you can do this?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Why
are there so
have
many
you
freaking hallways?
Yeah, why have you not been doing this?
This is clearly the draw of your game, is that you can have these really large, beautiful environments that you can explore. Like, why are you undercutting yourself by having these weird hallways for half the damn game? This is in my opinion, I feel like this dungeon is like the elevator pitch for Rogue Galaxy.
Yeah, this should have been the demo disc. I think
this is why you're playing the damn game.
I think it was the Juraika Leo Ruins was the demo disc, but this should have been the demo disc.
Yeah, it's just really good, and then the design's nice. You got a couple of diverging paths.
Mm-hmm.
You got some fun enemies, and it's just sand and trees, and it's just good stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Eli?
I feel pretty much the same way. I thought it was a really nice environment. I liked that it was more open.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to get through it kind of quickly because we just don't have time for a lot of things. You know, and I don't want to do another 3-hour recording session where we're just like beating our way through waves and waves of enemies. But it was incredibly beautiful. And the mobs were interesting.
Yeah. My favorite thing about the mobs is there is one mob called Coral something or other, which is the only one that doesn't die to AoE attacks. So like the mobs were interesting and I could interact with them if I wanted to, but I wasn't forced to. So like while I was trying to figure out the multiple levels and how to get around, because like this actually had like real exploring in it that none of the other dungeons have had, to like find all the chests and stuff. Like it wasn't annoying if I got in a fight, because I could just be like, okay, AoE, you're dead, and then move my way on, which was not true for Juraika, the Leo Ruins, because as I mentioned before, one of the rare mobs there has a rare drop chance for the roses that unlock the level 3 spells for pretty much everybody. And the other ones that you get there are like either have a shield, or you have to hit them in the head, or you have to take down their barrier or something. So I can't just like grind super easy on it. And because of that, I was like, I don't care about the rose. I'll get it in chapter 13 or whatever.
Yeah.
But here, like, none of that was a problem. Like, I could spend hours and hours on Alistia and it would be okay, because like everything was nice. It was so peaceful.
Yeah.
It was a vacation. Like,
yeah, one thing that was a little funny I just realized is they mentioned they want to go there for a vacation, but then once you get there, they don't have any kind of cutscene where they're like, awesome, let's start our vacation. And then when it turns out they have to play a game and save the day, no one's like, there goes our vacation, or anything like that, which is totally what you'd expect. I feel like maybe one writer wrote one part of the game, the other writer wrote the other part of the game, and that's why there's no reference to this alleged vacation.
But there is, if you have your walking voices on, like every single person is like, man, this is so nice, it's so great to get out, like I think next year I'm going to come back and I'm just going to camp out on this spot and stuff like that. Like,
I remember
they're having their vacation, they just are also fighting giant crabs, like
crabs in clamshells, I might add.
And it's almost like, you ever meet a person, and I'm not like this, but you ever meet a person where it's like their work is their life, and it's the one thing that they do, and they enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they go on vacation, and it's like you're just doing the same thing that you do for work, and it's like you need to stop. And it's like, but I like doing this. Why would I stop doing it? They're pirates. They're like, look, I'm sorry, we're gonna fight mobs with Desert Wind on our vacation. We can't not.
We love being pirates.
We physically cannot remove our weapons, so what else are we gonna do?
Exactly.
Toady will yell at us if we remove our weapons, so we have to leave them on. But
Toady's like, nah, man, you keep that.
So partway through the dungeon, we come around a corner and we see our Sleek boys getting pwned by some trash mobs, and so we jump in to help them, and they're like, "Oh, I guess you guys don't suck. So yeah, you can help us save Nina." So we do, and towards the end of the dungeon, they tell us about the promise that they made to Nina to protect her, and that they have been friends for a really long time. And then, meanwhile, to that cutscene, we see the runner of this factory, I guess the like foreman or whatever, and he's like a Futurama head in a jar on a robot. Like,
it's really cool. It's like creepy, but in a funny way.
It looked doofy as hell to me. I was just like, oh my god.
It could have been horrifying, and it landed on silly. And
he's
it's like,
just a torso.
It's like the thing that would have turned it from silly to creepy is at the edges of his skin where it connects to the robot. If it would have been like hooks or something into his skin instead of just being a hard line, that would have made it creepy. Like just that one thing would have made it horrifying. But because it's just like a head in the middle of a robot, you're just like, this is cool.
And he talks like I was gonna say he talks like fucking what's the name of the bad guy? Shredder. He talks like Shredder. He talks like this.
Yeah.
And it's really, really weird.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The voice acting, like, it's so goofy. And at no point does the voice acting from either character make it feel like he's upset about being a head in a jar. Like, it seems like he's totally chill with, like, his fate. Yeah. So therefore, you're not creeped out by the existential horror of it because you're like, he seems fine.
Yeah, except so we see him talking, and he says that he's talking to his brother, which is the scientist dude from Datron, the one that made Seed or whatever, and he's like, oh, he's my brother, and I just want to impress him, and I want to do all of this stuff to help him out, and my
brother senpai,
and Onai-chan is like, well, that's cool and all, like, thanks, you're doing such good work, you're vital, everything you do is important. And he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go and help you out, big brother. And then they close the chat, and then we see the scientist dude talking, like, one of his lackeys comes up and is like, well, do we need to go get the Enigma jar? And he's like, nah, it's just busy work to make him feel like he's important.
Yeah,
it's like harsh, and like, how do you do this to your brother and make him a literal head in a jar, and then you just are like, well, I just send him busy work so he isn't mad at me for the whole head thing.
I'm helping. Well, there is another funny line at this part actually that I thought was a little just a weird throwaway line when he's talking with that lackey. I forget the exact wording of it. I should have written it down, but I didn't. It wasn't until a bit afterward that I was like, wait, I really like that line. Where he's talking to the lackey and he says something about how it's the same thing. He's talking about how the Infinity Stone or whatever is not actually that. It's like, what's the point in getting it? Or he's like saying it won't help advance like Datron's goals. And then this evil scientist guy is like, yeah, but the stone isn't about. It's not about Datron, ... kind of like trails off. And then he says something like, basically like, once I get it, the fucking universe will bow to me, or something like that. It's not quite that ominous, but it's basically saying that. And the guy's just like, okay. And I'm like, dude, if you hear your boss saying like, all we have to do is get this stone, and then he's just saying like, it doesn't belong to Datron, it belongs to me. Everything serves me. And I'm like, I feel like that random worker guy should be like, I'm gonna go call Fogcog, and so I'm gonna go call HR, and tell them that you are clearly trying to undermine them, and also like take over the world or something. You
Remember
can't just
that-
say things like that.
Yeah, remember that retaliation is against the law too. So
Yeah, but this is Datron we're talking
That's
about.
true.
I'm pretty sure
they're evil.
So far above
It's
the
so
law.
yeah, they're evil. So it's okay to
clearly-
retaliate.
They extremely need to unionize.
Yeah.
Where's that game? Where's the game where Jaster infiltrates Datron and agitates to help them unionize? That's
Well, you
my
see,
goal.
this game didn't sell well. That was going to be Rogue Galaxy 2, so
I see.
that one was going to be called Comrade Galaxy.
As exciting as going to the space DMV.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So that just brief aside, that whole cliche about the DMV taking forever, and it's like in movies and stuff, like the DMV. I never thought that was true in Texas. Like my DMV trips were always relatively reasonable. Turns out that cliche is 100% true in California. Like if you want to go to the DMV, you need to sign up online and make an appointment, and it needs to be like weeks in advance.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
I'm not saying you need to. I'm saying you can show up there and stay in line, but it is going to be an all-day thing if you're lucky. Like apparently it's awful. So I guess that's where the cliche comes from, because I was always confused by it. I was like, the DMV, it's like you're there for 2 hours.
The worst line I've ever had was at the Pflugerville one, and it was like a 2-hour wait. But you sign up with your your phone number, so you just come in and you wait in line virtually, and you leave and go get food, and then they text you 30 minutes before, and you come back.
Yeah, I had like a 4 or 5 hour wait at one in Austin around 183, and same thing. It was a long wait, but they let me leave and while I waited, so it wasn't that bad. So yeah, I don't know. It's just Space DMV probably is no good.
Yeah,
you get to see Mio though.
Yeah, so that's good. So at the end of the dungeon, we finally get to the research facility, and Head in a Box has Nina up on like this balcony, like he was waiting for us just so he could use his big evil corporate balcony. And
why else did you buy an evil balcony overlooking a dramatic battle arena?
Right?
Good point.
And Nina seems evil and says that she's like always been evil and wanted to do all of this for herself. But our Sleek boys are like, nah, like you aren't like this. You're being mind controlled or something. And she's just like, oh yeah, well if I wasn't evil, would I do this? And she holds up the Enigma Stone and uses it with Head in a Box of Science and summons this giant crab monster for us to fight. And we fight it for a little, but we say that the crab is too strong.
Even though it's clearly not.
It's clearly not. No, I did actually die to this fight, and I'll get to that when we talk about the real fight in a second. But so we say that the crab is too strong, and then our Sleek boys show up and like, let's help, even though we suck really, really bad. And then they're like, excuse me, Joust, Fritz. And then you turn around, and then all of the Sleeks are there. And they're like, we suck too, but we can suck together. And so they storm the crab, and they're like, this is our fight. It's not yours, Jaster. Y'all sit back. And then all the Sleeks pretty much die.
They're literally throwing their lives away, like getting wrecked left and right. It's like, y'all, we had this.
Right.
We got the third of his health down in like 2 seconds. Why are you here?
Yeah, we literally did not need you at all.
So, seeing all of her friends die makes Nina remember that she's actually not evil, and she tells everyone to run. And Shark Boy's like, but true allies don't run when their friends need help. And Nina's like, well, I don't need help because I'm evil. And Shark Boy's like, sure you do. I can hear your heart crying out for help. It's super dramatic, and I was eating it up like it was fucking the most dramatic, like most well-written piece of like Shakespearean literature. I was like bawling my eyes out. Like, you tell her, you are her friend. Like,
wow, the power of friendship.
Like, I don't know what it is about, like, because like if I'm watching an anime and the anime is like hyper realistic and everything like that, and it's like, yeah, and your father just died, and I'm like, trope, I don't give a shit. But like, you give me some brightly ass colored fish people talking about the power of friendship and promises they made when they were kids, and I don't know why, but it works so much better on me.
Power of friendship is like, I don't know. There's just something really great about it.
Yeah.
And like in its cheesiness, I that's part of why I love Sailor Moon and Steven Universe, because there's that power of friendship thing, and that always kind of drove me to be a better person.
I wonder if maybe part of it is that in our society, it is like with everyone working two different part-time jobs and having to move to different places and never see each other, like it is pretty hard to maintain friendships.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So maybe when you see this fictional world where people are just besties all the time and have these unbreakable bonds, you're like,
Yeah, maybe so.
because if you can manage to have that kind of thing, it really is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is a wonderful thing to have in your life, and it's very difficult. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. So, after Shark Boy tells Lava Girl that they're still friends or whatever.
I was wondering if you were gonna...
Timely reference.
Oh boy.
So we see flashbacks of them being friends where like she comes out of the water and she's just like, oh hey, like can I stay here? And they're like, well no, because racism. And she's like, but here's a shiny bauble. And he's like, oh that's cool as long as it's not a smallpox blanket. And they just have it just shows a lot of friendship and stuff,
Wow.
stuff like that. And that snaps Nina fully back to reality. Oops, there goes gravity. And I need to stop.
Nice.
I need to stop with these like mid-sentence references because my goal is to be like Lisa Kudrow and just throw away a joke and keep going, but it makes me laugh too hard, and I do know what I'm saying anyway.
You're not there. You're not there yet.
I'm not there yet. I'm going to get there eventually.
Keep doing it. Keep trying.
There were a couple of them in like Persona that I would get through where I would call somebody something as I was going along, and like re-listening to the podcast because I'm a freak. I heard it and I was just like, man, I'm so funny, and I'm too funny now because I just keep
last
fucking
week
up.
I was just listening to catch up. You totally did a great job of sneaking in, calling Bergconqua, calling it Bukaki, but then Eli ruined it by losing his absolute shit.
I'm sorry.
I heard you say Bukaki and I was like, nice, good one, Sam. Just slipped it in there. Especially with me not being there, I was like, yeah.
And I'm just like, wait.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
Hold the fucking phone.
It didn't work at all. So
You tried your best.
So we see all their flashbacks, and Nina's like, oh yeah, I'm totally not evil, and she snatches the Enigma Stone back, and she summons lightning to just fuck up Head in a Box. And
It was really sick.
And so then that makes the crab go crazy, and he turns around and like karate chops Nina to death, and we then have to fight the crab. And what did you guys think of this boss fight?
I think we tore through it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Few things. So the first thing is that first of all, I love crabs. They're the cutest fucking animals. When I see a crab in a game, Bernard and me have like a little in joke now where we're just like, crab in game. Like I'll take a screenshot of it, send it to him, and I'll say, Bernard, crab in game. My favorite example
that's
was
why Bernard was saying that Banjo-Kazooie was better than Banjo-Tooie, because Banjo-Kazooie has a big crab in it.
Well, aside from that, it also has a crab in game, which means it's categorically better.
It's definitely not. If you're remembering the remake on the Xbox, remakes on the Xbox made Banjo-Kazooie a better game. But the fact that you can't beat the game unless you practically 100% the notes, and you can't 100% the notes on multiple tries. You have to do it all at once without dying. That's bullshit. Like the first game.
Counterpoint. I'd never beat any of those games because I don't like them that much, but I enjoy playing them. But I enjoy playing them for as long as I feel like playing them, and then I am done.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
so
like,
bullshit 100% requirements don't matter to me.
here's my hot take. The Donkey Kong Country series is way better as far as Rare is concerned. So
I do have to say that the hidden Banjo 3E of Donkey Kong 64 is probably my favorite. Like it's
fuck
so good.
Donkey Kong 64.
This is quite possibly the worst take on this podcast.
I like legitimately loved Donkey Kong. I'll probably go back to it and be like, oh my god, this is actually shit, and I made a fool out of myself on the internet. But I remember
Donkey Kong 64.
really loving it.
It's cool. It does have some really good boss battles.
Yeah, I remember
the boss battles very fondly.
The boss battles, and then like because you could switch characters on everything, and then each of those characters also had like all of the different superpowers that you got through Banjo-Kazooie. Like I felt that the worlds could have so much more cool random shit in it. But yeah.
Also, like, how did y'all do this on N64? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know that used the 64. That used the expansion, right?
Yeah. That was
even with the expansion, it's still ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking
but does it have crab in game?
I don't remember. Probably there's like 3 water levels, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Presumably. So back to this boss. It's not just a crab though. It is the best kind of crab, a hermit crab.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so cute. I was just losing it. I was like, hell yeah, this thing rocks. This game rocks. I was sitting Bernard I was talking to Bernard about the game while I was playing, and I was telling him some good parts about it and some bad parts about it. And the bad parts, he was like, ugh, this game sounds like it's so dumb. This game sounds like it sucks. And then I sent him the picture of the crab, and he was like, Rogue Galaxy rules. Actually, I need to play this game.
I take everything back.
As for the actual battle, I don't know. I know I beat it my first try. I recall he had some good moves. He liked to scuttle a lot. He was always trying to run away from me.
He was using his big old claws to smash.
So
he had some big old swipes, but if you got into the sweet spot, you could avoid his big old swipes, which was cool because it's like his claws are literally like going kind of in front of you. Like it's not just get up in his face. If you get up in his face, he might hit you. But if you get up in his face in just the right way, his attacks like don't hit you, which is I thought pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I died the first time because he does like to scuttle, but he'll scuttle by jumping and therefore breaking your lock on and moving to the other side of the thing, and then like scuttling at you, and you like can't block it. Like it's easy to dodge if you can look at him in time, but I couldn't once, and I got wombo comboed by his scuttle, and it just took out my whole party, hit all of them at once, and
it was
like
nasty.
It was like a dumb like cheap death because I was like not even having trouble, and then it killed me. And so the next time I was like, well, I'm going to prevent this the best way that I can, and I used Supernova and then Spinning Moon, etc. Just like as soon as I would get my AP back, I would go and I would do it. And like they didn't take off like sizable chunks. Like usually your AoE moves are not worth it in boss fights. Like they're strong against magic, so you want Illusion Sword to fuck them up. But it would take off like a tenth, so I just did it 10 times. Like it was completely inefficient, but it was hella safe. And I was like, I don't want to deal with this. I want to be
for me.
done.
If I recall, he's one of those bosses that has multiple phases. So not like very obvious phases, but just like he gets harder towards the end. If I recall, I'm remembering this now. Towards the end,
he scuttles like all the time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he started getting so dangerous that I did something that I thought was interesting, and this also applies to another boss where I put on Illusion Sword, but it actually was too dangerous to get in its face. So if you get in its face with Illusion Sword, you get double damage because it's both the sword and the Zelda beam that you're shooting. But I was just staying far away and shooing Illusion Sword beams at him, which doesn't hurt him as much. But I was like, honestly, he's a bit too dangerous. I don't want to get near him anymore. So that was cool. Yeah, I had to like change my tactics in the middle of the fight, which was pretty cool. So like most bosses, it's not super interesting, but it's real cute and the moves are cool.
Yeah, I really liked it. So after the fight, it unceremoniously fades to black. It reminds me of in Final Fantasy IX, there's so many times where it just like fades to black and text says, you had this small adventure and you ended up in a cellar. And it's just like, but wait, like what about all of that stuff? Like what happened? Like you walk into what's his face? Can't even remember. Kuja. You walk into his thing, it fades to black, and it's like, Kuja trapped you, and now you're in the dungeon, and then you're in Kuja's dungeon, and that's where the actual like level starts. This is the dungeon, and there's no cutscene, there's no nothing, it just fades to black, and that's what I remembered here. Is like, well, like what happened with the factory and all of that stuff? No, you just fade to black, and then you wake up back in the village, and. So back in the village, turns out Nina's not actually dead. The Sleek boy saved her and brought her to the village, and then everybody like comes in and apologizes for being racist and says that she can live in the village with them. And then Joust and Fritz say that they're going to take Nina on an ocean voyage to go and find more mermals because she can't possibly be the last one. This is a huge ass planet, and so she won't have to be alone anymore. And it's touching and it's great, and it made me cry. And then they gave Jester some pirate clothes, which have a hat, so I don't have to look at his stupid fucking haircut ever.
But
again.
Now he's got his bandana is a red bandana. And it's got these white markings on it that make him look like he has huge white eyebrows over top of his bandana. It's great. I love it.
What it actually does is it makes him into the hero of Dragon Quest VIII. Like,
straight up, exactly what he looks like. It's a great outfit. It's way better than the like forest outfit that I had on him before, which is like all the feathers in the world.
Yeah, it's because his default outfit is okay, but kind of boring. The feathers at least were interesting to look at, and so I've been in the feathers since the Jungle Planet.
Yeah,
chapter.
We were too, but yeah, Ken immediately switched to his pirate outfit.
Hell yeah! So yeah, that wrapped up Alistia. Was there anything I missed or anything else you wanted to talk about while we were there?
I love those fucking stupid fish people.
They're just so damn good.
I love that they have those blank fish eyes too.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh, yes.
They're just so, there's something so charming and terrifying about them.
Yeah. Another thing I really like is this game does this weird thing where, like, this game sometimes has exaggerated cartoony voices, like that dang cat in the inside the ship or whatever. Like, it has a number of exaggerated cartoony voices, but it more relies on, like, regular dude sounding voices, and the thing is that's really funny when you see like this absolutely bizarre looking fish head person, but then he's just talking like
a normal person, like that is not the voice I imagined.
Like, yeah, that's why it's funny. It's like this is the sort of situation, like this is such an exaggerated character, like that's the sort of thing where you'd expect like a hello, friend.
I saw that.
You'd expect a weird cartoon voice, but you don't, so it's extra funny. It's like, these are just a bunch of folks.
I saw that pufferfish guy, and I was immediately like, he's gonna sound like Patrick Star from SpongeBob. No, not at all. Not even close.
Yeah. They're all just regular.
Yeah.
And the other thing about this is, so Sam, you mentioned something earlier, and I don't actually know if you're wrong. Maybe I totally misread this, but I read it as you were saying that the Datron was killing all the mermals with their pollution. I totally thought I picked up a couple of references to like a mermal Sleeg like war that had been happening. Yeah, they said it a few times, and so I think I'm sure some of them probably died because of the Datron, but I also think that a lot of the mermals like died because like the Sleeg killed them because they've been fighting each other.
Yeah. I think it's I picked up on like a mix of both. Probably it's like the long deep-seated Hatfield McCoy type thing, but
so it made the ending a little funny for me because it's like it's played off as so happy, right? Like, we're gonna go find the rest of your race. It's like, okay, like y'all killed all of them. You just genocided an entire other race and assimilated the one that was left into your village.
Though I actually did see a thing on that. So she being friends with them made her an outcast from her village, then her village was destroyed by a Datron. So it seemed like it was more of like a stalemate type war than a genocide thing. But then when like Datron was helping with the genocide thing, they weren't mad. So
okay.
That's what it felt like.
Everybody was just very self-congratulatory about the whole like, let's find out if there's any more of these people that we totally killed all of, by the way. And I was like, I feel like we're on the wrong side of this conflict, but whatever. Right? It continues Rogue Galaxy's tradition of having really weird politics that are not commented upon, but in like not in like a gross bad way, more in kind of a legitimately interesting way.
Yeah. And I really liked it. I was like, when I was getting through it, it was about like 75% of the way through. I was like, what the heck was Chaos talking about? Like, this is not cool. This is just like an outside area. Like, yeah, the fish people are nice and the dungeon is well put together, but like nothing about the plot is really like getting to me or whatever. And then it just like clicked at some unknown point where I was just like, no, all of this is great. This is the best thing in the game so far.
The plot is a little sloppily put together. Like, I'm not 100% sure exactly what some characters' motivations were and exactly what was going on, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Also the fact that it is so clearly an optional side plot and doesn't affect anything maybe makes it easier, right? It's like, if I didn't 100% understand it, it doesn't matter because it's not like it's going to come back.
Yeah, and that's what I loved the most about when the lackey comes up and he's like, "Oh, do we need to go get the Enigma Stone?" He's like, "Nah, it's just busy work. It doesn't matter." I'm like, "Hey, you're talking about me playing this planet right now."
It's like very meta. It's like I'm just giving those idiot players. The idiot brother something to do to feel better about himself and use up his time.
Yeah, it was great, but yeah, after our vacation, we get back to our actual quest, and we go to Zerard for the Gladius Towers. And when we head towards the towers, there's a big shield closing off the interest, like a force field type thing. And everyone's like, only a supercomputer could get past this. Where the hell would we find a supercomputer? If only like one of our party members was a supercomputer, that would be really helpful.
Oh my gosh.
And Steve is like, that's actually me, guys. And so he tries to open it, but he has a limiter on him that doesn't let him go into quote unquote full burst mode. And he's like, but
blast processing.
Yeah,
that's it.
He's like, but it's cool. I can go ask my Robodad to help us out. So we head over to Dr. Fellacio's office, and we're like, hey, please take off the limiter. And he's like, no, it'll be dangerous. It'll damage your emotional circuits. And Steve's like, I don't give a fuck. But Dr. Pistachio is like, but that's where my kid is. And so he's like, I can't make this decision myself. Steve, come with me. And everyone's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? So he straps Steve into the headphone things to talk to Mark. And Mark's like, fuck yeah, kill me. Let's go and save the universe because I'm such a beautiful little boy. And Mustachio is like, but you could die. And Mark's like, but they're good friends. I love all of them. And he's like, oh, so you did learn the power of friendship. Okay, that's fine. I'll kill you so we can save the universe. And so he removes the limiter so that we can continue and gives us a button to activate it. And the only reason we have a button is so that we can walk up and use one of the question mark things. And
yep,
could have been a cutscene, would have been fine, but they wanted us to walk our asses back to the place
and
press a button.
Yeah.
So we get to the tower, we remove the barrier, and we go in. And the place looks really dilapidated, and when we walk in, but then a bunch of yellow, like Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke-esque lights just like come in flying around everything, and a magic sword pops out of the water and sends us on a quest. The sword says that it's the spirit of the Libra King, and he wants us to go put his kids in timeout.
And he talks like a game show host.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
And he says, my kids have been fighting for so long, they didn't even realize that they died. So go show them my sword. It'll smooth everything over, and they'll listen to you, and you can tell them to cut it out. And so it's a super awesome sword.
You get so mad you don't notice you died.
Right? So
we've all been there.
He gives us his sword, which is super awesome, but I've already fully upgraded my Desert Seeker, so I do have like a 400 attack weapon. So every weapon I get, I just throw the fuck away because I don't give a shit. And so as we head forward, we see Zegerum down below FaceTiming Norma, as if we didn't already know that indeed it was Datron he was talking to. And he's like, they fooled the Libra King. Should I intervene yet? She's like, no, you might as well leave the dirty work to those dirty workers, as if the class dynamics wasn't obvious yet. And so she tells Zegerum to let us go find all the things. We get to our first save point, and we get a meanwhile that Mark is super happy that he got the thing done, but he starts to flicker away while he's saying it. And Pistachio's like, oh, but and then it cuts, and we get more of that later. But before I go on my rant, what did you guys think about this dungeon?
I'm a little conflicted because on one hand, it is bullshit for the reasons you're about to elucidate. I also don't think it's 100% bullshit, mostly because it's so damn easy. It's like theoretically bullshit, but if you look at the actual like game clock, it doesn't actually take a stupendously long amount of time. I think it more just feels like it does. Also, it's when once someone in the chat sent us that map, I saw that map, and once I saw the actual layout of it, I was like, man, I gotta give him props. That's a really cool and clever dungeon map. I like the elegance of it. Just even though I'm not actually playing the elegance of it, like looking at a picture, I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, like my main beef with it. And I'll before I go on my main thing, Eli, I'll let you chime in. But my main beef with it is it's so close to being the best dungeon in the game. It is like making it 30 minutes shorter would be the best dungeon in the game, and it's not. And it's just like all I see is the failed potential and the boredom that it gave me. But Eli, before I go off, do you have anything to pipe in?
So Ken did the dirty work. While I was not around, like he grinded over his weekend, and he made himself a list, and like here's where the saves are that we need to jump to for our Let's Play, because we weren't going to put people through 7 hours of going through this place because that's how long it took Sam, apparently.
It wasn't 7 hours, but it was like 2 or 3 hours,
Okay.
and everything else is about 1 hour. But,
okay,
yeah.
I thought you had said it was way longer. But in any case, I was like, yeah, we're not fucking doing that in a video. We've already got at least one 3-hour video, and it's just, I was so tired. Yeah, it's very painful. So, I didn't see the majority of it, but I did get to kind of have a taste of it when we were Let's Playing. And it just looks awful. It looks like something I wouldn't want to do, and I'm so glad I have Ken in my life to do that for me.
Yeah.
Because it just, like, it's sort of straightforward when you're first revealing the map, when you're going up the first tower.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go to the second tower, the map is already revealed, and there's multiple levels, so it turns into a big-ass maze.
Yeah.
And it just...
Yeah, like, it's hard to... Like, it's easy to get the parts that aren't actually what you're doing right now with the part that you are trying to do right now.
Right.
On the map screen.
And it just seemed like a big old waste of time.
Yeah. So here, for those who aren't playing along or just want me to elucidate why this was bad. So you walk up and there are 2 towers, and you can walk into either one. So far, that should have been a cool thing. And when you're walking in, you're like, okay, I'm going to have this dungeon here get to the top, and then I'll go into the other dungeon here and get to the top, and that will be fine. And there will be 2 different dungeons, and it'll be okay. But then as you start climbing one, it's kind of ridiculously long. But when you get up to the second floor, there's a bridge, or third floor actually, doesn't matter. There's a bridge that goes across to the other tower, and you're like, okay, cool. This now is one dungeon, because all of the cutscenes of getting into the tower only happened on the left side, didn't happen on the right side. So you're like, okay, well, will be the only dungeon I go to, because I'm going through both dungeons as I climb up. And
yeah,
so
it's actually both.
And so you're like, this is awesome. This is cool. It's taking a little long, but it's okay. And so you get up through 7 floors, 7 save points of space on the tower. And most dungeons have had 4 save points. So it's about almost twice as long. And you're like, okay, this is cool. I've gone through both towers. This is exciting. And then you fight the boss, and then your star updates from where you are to the other tower, and you're like, okay, I was just across a bridge. Let me go and fiddle around and find out how to get there. And then you come to the shocking realization that no, it's not a 7-floor dungeon, it's a 14-floor dungeon, and you go all the way down, walk to the other entrance, and you do a different zigzag across the bridges to get up to the top of that tower. And it's so long. It only has as much plot as like all of the other keys have had. So it's just like, instead of like those, you would have like 10 minutes of gameplay before you got to your next thing. This one, you'd have like 30 minutes of gameplay before you got to your next cutscene. And most of the gameplay, while the level itself is really cool, it deals with each floor has 2 levels, and some of them are blocked off so that the other tower would come to that point, and it's actually kind of really cool. I just wish it would have been like 4 and 4 and not 7 and 7. Like it was way too fucking big.
Another thing they could have done is they also could have just managed expectations. Like, for example, imagine if, like, normally I like things being surprising and you know, like, figuring out things as you go. But imagine if before you go to the tower, there was almost like a heist movie little cutscene where someone explains that you're going to have to go in each side, and it's like got this double helix layout. If I literally just knew that was layout of the dungeon already, then it wouldn't have surprised me, and I would have been able to appreciate what was going on. Yeah. It would have still been a long slog, but at least I wouldn't have been because the main problem is that halfway through you think you're done and you're not done.
Yeah.
But if you
not
knew
only you're not done, you're barely halfway done.
Yeah, if you knew you were only halfway done, it wouldn't hurt so much. I think that, personally, this dungeon is so dramatic. It's the 2 huge dramatic towers that you've been seeing since you got in Gerard. I think, and again, this is a little bit of just like maybe projection diagnosis, but I really feel like this is an example of the story people and the dungeon people were not 100% in sync because the game's plot wasn't locked down early enough. So I think when they made this dungeon, they didn't 100% know where it was going. And this dungeon would have made way more sense at a more dramatic point in the story.
Yeah.
If this was the final dungeon, or maybe like the fake final dungeon, you know, that you think is final dungeon and then turns out there's more game. Like with, maybe multiple cutscenes as you go up, or even if there's not, honestly, like having a super long slog with no plot at all, that's a great thing you do at the end of your game because you're trying to impress upon the player that shit is real now.
Yeah.
Like, it's escalation, right? Like, of course the dungeon's extra long and hard. It's the end of the game. It's supposed to be dramatic. But you're just getting the third trinket out of 3, or maybe not even the third trinket. That's why this makes sense as the last one, right?
Yeah.
If you did this one first, you're like, why is this super long, complicated, interesting, dramatic dungeon stuck here in this random place in the game with no particular dramatic reason?
Yeah, and so the reason it became boring and not like an exciting, because like you said, when you get to Ganon's Tower in Ocarina of Time, like its literal shtick is that, okay, you have 4 rooms from every temple in the game so far. Like, it's a long, super dramatic dungeon, and there's nothing from the moment you walk in to the moment you see Ganon at the end of it. But it's okay because that's the final dungeon. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah,
like,
you're in it.
Link to the Past is the same way. In Link to the Past speedrunning, they call it the gauntlet because, like, that's what it is. It is a gauntlet of running through all of this stuff, and you don't need plot because you are conquering the video game at the moment that you're about to conquer the final boss. But because we didn't have that, and we just had get the trinket, this 30-minute slog between things became a slog and not like a pushing forward on its own petard type thing. And it just...
you don't feel like you're overcoming a dramatic challenge. You feel like you're just getting a side quest, or not a tri-quest. You feel like you're just getting a fetch quest trinket because that's what you are. And for some reason, it just takes way more effort than the other fetch quest trinkets.
Yeah.
And the icing on the shit cake that is this dungeon, like it being long, it being 7 times longer than normal would have sucked, but would have been okay. But the main puzzle of the dungeon is the fact that it is a maze, and it's not a maze like there are 2 doors and you open one door and it's a dead end, and you open the other one and you continue. It's like you travel for a good 5 minutes down this path to then see that it ends, and you walk back for 5 minutes back through the other path to then take the other exit. And it's like, not only is it super long, you're going to have to do like each floor practically twice if you make bad choices. Or if you're like me and you can tell one's the way to go, but you want to see if there's a chest at the end. And a lot of times there's not even a chest at the
end. See, as soon as I learned that once you get all of the save points in an area, it makes you see all the chests, I'm now like, okay, I'm no longer looking for chests.
Yeah.
And I just have good luck with these kind of things. Like, what you're saying is totally a problem, but for me, I just always happen to pick the right choice, almost always. So
I was not as lucky.
I just didn't have that issue, and that's always how it is with games. I'm just weirdly good at being like, I'll go left, and the game's like, okay, yeah, that's the right way.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet.
But, yeah, the dungeon itself was like... It was like the rest of this chapter really wasn't bad. The dungeoneering of this dungeon wasn't bad. It's just like... It needs to be about 30 or more % shorter, and it would have been okay. Like, it was rough. So
I also do like how the 2 towers are like, one of them's kind of blue, one of them's kind of red, and the architecture and it was super crumbled. It's like, this is not just a ruin. This is like a mega ruin. Like you cannot deal with how ruined this ruin is. It's great because every floor, if you were to reverse time and go back to before it was a ruin, would have an identical layout. Because they all have the same basic structure, and the same, like, the staircases are all the same shape and they go in the same places. But each floor's layout is actually way different because each floor, the cave-ins have crumbled in different ways. So where you may have gone left before, now you have to go right because the left is a cave-in. It's really cool, and it's like you said, it's even more of a waste because it would have been way cooler if I wasn't annoyed the whole time.
Yeah, it like everything about it is just like 1% off of being the best dungeon in the game, and instead it's the worst. Well, I don't know if it's the worst because
it's not the worst.
The first Draika still exists, but it's so. Like, it's the one I have the most, like, frustration with. Like, the Draika one was bad, but it was bad because it was just hallways. And
it's like, okay, I'm bored, but whatever, who cares?
Yeah, this one, it was like, not only am I bored, I'm frustrated and bored. And if I didn't have to do a podcast on Monday, I would let this take me, like, 3 weeks to get through it. Like, it was...
Yeah, totally.
It was bad. But halfway up the tower, and also... I remember these next things happening in a different order. It really doesn't matter. None of them are like cause and effect sort of thing. So if you played it and these happen in different orders, I apologize, because I think the Let's Play I was watching somehow went up the right instead of the left. So that's weird.
Yeah, you can go up either, but I feel like we all went up the left one for some reason, because I don't know. Left
that's
goes
where the
first and
cutscene
right
was.
goes second.
Yeah. Halfway up the tower, we run into Seed, and he kicks our ass. But Desert Claw shows up, and they have a very anime fight scene, and it's great. And Claw says that Seed's strength isn't superhuman. It's not even human at all. He must be something greater. And Seed is like, well, Claw, you must be something special too to stand toe to toe with me. And then Seed runs off, and so does Claw. And then we get to the top of the first tower to try to make the prince understand that he's dead. And he believes us for a second, and then he's like, "Nah, my brother put you up to this, didn't he?" And fights us. So we get to the top of the first tower, and we try to make the prince understand he's dead, and he's just like, "Well, my brother put you up to this, didn't he?" And we're like, "No, it was your dad. Look, here's your sword. Doesn't that believe you?" He's like, "Oh, so my brother stole my dad's sword too?" Which, like, the Libra King was like, "Take the sword. It will convince them," and then it doesn't. At all.
Yeah.
It like doesn't help us in our quest whatsoever. And so we fight him, and this was Gozel, I think, was the one I fought first.
Gazelle. It's pronounced Gazelle.
It's a beautiful gazelle.
Yeah.
This is a cool fight. I don't know. It was regular. He did a really cool whirly gig move. He had a bunch of moves. Like, towards the end of the fight, like, I was literally about to use a move on him for the last time, and he did some move I hadn't seen before. He had all these Dark Souls-ass attack patterns, which would be better if this game was Dark Souls, but it's not a Tro Galaxy, so the moves didn't matter as much, besides looking cool.
Yeah, I really liked the huge, like, tornadoes and stuff he was shooting at us. And
that thing would wreck sometimes, too.
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. I illusion sworded him till he died. But that's about par for the course. We mentioned last week, I know you just said you listened to it, but we mentioned how cool Illusion Sword would have been to unlock here with the stuff that happens at the beginning of Chapter 9 that I've already seen. Like, that would make you feel super awesome. It's like at a story point to now suddenly be able to, like, wreck shop on everything. But the fact that it's the second move that you learn in the entire game, like... This game just becomes a cakewalk, and like I'm glad it is, because Persona did it the opposite, where we get halfway through, I'm like, this game is super easy, and then Mythical Gigas kicks my ass for 3 weeks. So like I'm glad that it's a cakewalk, but I see bosses like this, and I'm like, this looks like it would be so much fun, but I don't have to worry about it. So whatever.
Were y'all's team members, teammates in this battle, like completely unable to stop from being dead constantly?
Yes.
Every time that you did the whirlwind move, I'm like, y'all, you move away from the whirlwind move.
Get out of the tomatoes.
What ended up happening was I didn't want them to lose the experience point, so what happened was I let them just be dead for most of the battle, and then right before it was over, I revived them so that they would get experience. Because that's how I roll.
But yeah, like in every fight in the game so far, if I'm not just spamming AoEs, they just run into the fire and try and punch and wonder why they're dead. Like, it started with the Mud Womper way back on the Jungle Planet, and it has not stopped. But so after the fight, he's like, "Oh, I felt my dad's presence in that sword. Maybe I am a piece of shit, so you should go and tell my brother the same thing." And we're like, "Okay, like I saw that his room is right over there. How do we get there?" And this is when we realize you have to climb the other tower, and we're not even done.
So I thought something, Sam. You said that the dad said use the sword, and it didn't even work. But maybe when the dad said use the sword, this will help. Maybe he meant kick my son's ass with my sword, and that'll make him be right. Maybe he knew that you'd have to kick their ass.
Maybe so. So,
like, that's what the sword's for, right? Murdering people. He's like, hey, use this sword and kill my brothers. Like, am I right there?
Yeah, because that's what we do.
Ghost kill.
Yes.
Double ghost kill.
So we climb up the other tower, and we see Burton, except he's dead. He's a spirit, and we're like, how did you die? And he's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. I can just be the best archaeologist now. I can look at everything, and I don't have to actually go there.
But you're dead. You have no hands. How will you write any of this down?
That's the thing. He could probably just like call a symposium. So like it's like, wait, if ghosts can just hang around and time travel, like why is archaeology even a profession in this world? Like,
right?
Presumably any ghost could just tell you how things are in the past, and you'd be like, oh, come to our seminar where old King Tut is going to explain ancient Egypt to us. And everyone's like, cool.
Oh my God.
We don't have to pay anyone to do this.
How fucking cool would that be?
Own. Well, they probably wouldn't necessarily be trustworthy, but yeah.
but also, like, Burton's the only archaeologist we've met. What if every archaeologist goes into some ruins and finds some dead people, and he's like, oh, I can just kill myself and talk to all these fucking ghosts? What if I've wasted my whole life? And then they just go hang out with ghosts. And so Burton's the only one finding it. So finding this out so far.
I mean, I always feel like you have to choose between following your dreams and embracing the sweet release of death. But if I could just die and follow my dreams, it'd be a lot easier.
Oh, that is morbid, and I love it.
That's maybe a bit too dark.
No, I love it.
No, it's great. So, we make our way up the other tower, and there's not a seed boss fight. So it like the Burton thing happens like one room in, and then you have an empty ass tower till you get all the way to the top, and it's frustrating. But we make our way to the top of the other tower, and to tell this prince that he's behaving badly and also dead, and he also blames his brother. And we're also like, look at the sword, and he's like, I don't give a shit. So we had to fight that guy. What did you think of this guy for Logan? Definitely a phantom from Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I thought I'd lost you guys for a second.
No.
Just being quiet.
But yeah, he definitely looked like a phantom from Spirit Tracks. I remember him being harder than the other guy, but all it was by harder was I healed 3 more times than I did on the other guy, and that was about it. He still went down pretty easy.
His attacks were harder to read. I felt like so it is a bit more just like you have to use a bunch of items because like you're trying to be good, but he's just getting you. Whereas the other guy, it's like, okay, he's doing the whirlwind. Let's pull back. Let's wait for the whirlwind to be done. But this is just like, oh, well, he just hit me. Okay.
As I recall, Jupus and Lilica again spent most of the time dead.
Yeah, that's about par for the course. That's the worst thing about all the special moves being a combo move is you're just like, well, now I can't use it because you guys can't get out of the fire.
Yeah.
But so after this fight, he's like, "Whoa, what was that sword? It felt like my dad." And then Gazelle shows up and is like, "So you talked to him peacefully, right? Because he had my dad's sword, and I told you I didn't want to fight anymore." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't believe any of that shit." And they're like, we both sucked then, I guess. So then they give a speech to all of their dead citizens and say that now we'll rule as one king and not as 2 princes, and everything will be great from now on. And they then give us a helmet. And at first I was like, I don't want no fucking helmet. But then as soon as they give it to us, it changes into the Scales Funko Pop. And I'm like, that's much better.
Yeah, that's what we really wanted.
It was almost like that Drake meme where they give me the helmet and I'm like, no. And then they it changes to the pop. And I'm like,
that's meme and put it on the Twitter.
I should.
Photoshop Jaster's face on top of him.
Oh, yeah. So then they thank us for helping them, and they say they're going to move on to a new world and make a new kingdom with their subjects. And then
with
all the ghosts disappear.
And hookers. Sorry.
and then all the spirits disappear. So maybe it was only these spirits that you could talk to back in the day, and that's why archaeologists are still a thing. But so then the bells in the tower go off for the first time in a long time, and everyone's like, wow, that sounds so peaceful, blah, 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 blah. But downstairs, the fountain where we got the sword, like, shits out Burton. Like, he's not welcome in their new kingdom. And they're like, look, you were dead, but, like, we really only want, like, dead Zerardians here, and we don't like your Pinocchio people, so get out of here. And Burton's like, I'm alive again? Well, I guess this is a sign. I need to go and research some more ruins. And he runs off. And when he runs off, we see close by Desert Claw saying, like, some actual plot stuff from this chapter, which is great. And he goes, a child of royal blood? Jaster, the fate of the galaxy relies on the blood flowing through your veins. What do you guys think Desert Claw is talking about?
What a twist! It turns out was special for some reason, and once again is totally Desert Claw's son. Well, I guess if he's royal blood, maybe that's a different twist. Unless Desert Claw is also royal, who knows? But yeah, a twist that definitely we didn't see coming at all.
Yeah, definitely having a magical rune on your face since birth is not a sign that you're a magical boy. But yeah, well, so I know what happens because I had to play the beginning of Chapter 9 to come back and do Alistia. What do you guys think is about to happen for Chapter 9?
I'm guessing they're gonna do a. Have y'all played? I'm sure Sam has. Eli, have you played Knights of the Old Republic?
No, I haven't. I'm not super into Star Wars, and everybody's gonna like boycott the podcast now because of that.
Not being into Star Wars is fine, but having wrong opinions about Star Wars is not fine.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because see, right now you're just an opportunity. So now we can just throw a party and show you all the movies in the machete order, and then you'll get it.
Okay, see,
or whatnot.
Nope.
I will say I did get into it more after The Force Awakens, and I've seen all of the newer Star Wars since then, and I fucking love The Last Jedi. But anyway,
which is the correct opinion about Star Wars.
So now you're
anyway,
okay.
Point is, so KOTOR, this is not really a spoiler. KOTOR does this thing where the middle portion of the game, they're like, we have to go and get 4 things, right? We have to go to these 4 different planets, and they have this great little twist where it's regular, right? You're just like, okay, do the first planet, have an adventure. Do the second planet, have an adventure. Do the third planet, have an adventure. But then right after you finish the third planet, as you go to the 4th planet, basically the bad guy's evil ship intercepts you, like at beginning of episode 4 style, and then you have an extra adventure on this really tough dungeon that when I was a child I didn't understand the idea of having multiple save points, and I got stuck and couldn't beat the boss and had to start the entire game over. So that's nice. But luckily that game rules, so it didn't matter. But yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be like, let's continue on our adventure. Oh no! I think something unexpected is going to happen to them, like perhaps literally getting captured by the giant dreadnought that we saw earlier, and maybe Zegram's finally going to spring his trap. Maybe Zegram's going to be like, "Guess what? I'm bad," and I got you, and now you're stuck in a dungeon. That's my guess.
We did just see Seagram talking with Norma, so
the pot's been boiling for a while.
Yeah, so something that's going to come to a head. Like, something is going to happen there. He's going to turn on us. Why he's still a part of our party and getting experience, I don't know, but it's pissing me off. I want him out of my party.
I mean, he's never in my party except for in cutscenes.
Well, true, yes. But he's there in cutscenes, and that's far too much for me. And he's leeching experience off of us like a douchebag.
So speaking of your party being there in cutscenes, this is not par for the course for a game where you have 1,000 party members.
No.
But like, what do you think of the choice that like canonically all 8 of you or whatever are going through the dungeon together and you only use 3 at a time? Like,
that's relatively common. That happens in some other games. It's dumb, but it's whatever.
In every cutscene, there's only 3 people. There's only 3 of our party members, and it's like, where the fuck did you guys come from? You haven't been here.
I think it's really funny how it's just like whoever the cutscene writers decided to put in, it's like, this guy's there now.
Yeah.
I actually really like it because like in you said it's super common, but in most of the RPGs I've done, there's some home base, be it the airship or a physical location or whatever that like your party members are supposedly at, and it's only these 3 people are going off on this thing and then they report back later.
Oh, by the way,
this one, they're all there, and that's why you can it switches between the 3 of them on the fly, because it's like, well, for limitations we only can have 3 actors on the screen at a time, but because we switch through it sometimes in the middle of a cutscene, it'll switch which 3 are there. Like, it's canon that they're all traveling with you, which I think is pretty cool.
I think it's more common in sort of the games that you haven't played a whole lot, because you said that you're not more familiar with more like this era of games. So once the games got more voice acting, And that's when they really started doing that, right? Because it's like, these characters have lines, and we're not going to write different lines with different voice acting depending on who the player picks for their party to take from the home base. So now everyone's there, right?
Because like in Final Fantasy VI, like the text box will just not have a name at the top of it, and it'll be party number 3 will say it type thing. But they can't do that with voice acting. You're right.
You haven't played this game, but Final Fantasy X handles this really cool. Final Fantasy X does the whole they're all there thing, but it makes more sense. Well, it makes a little bit more sense. You only have 3 people in your party at once, but one of the game's mechanical features is you can literally swap out party members in combat.
Yeah, which you can also do in Rogue Galaxy.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I never bothered.
You press triangle, then press triangle again to go into the allies menu, and you can switch them out. That's why the 4th level item says even those on standby, because while you're walking, they can't be dead. So what would you revive from standby? And it's because your people all die, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not playing with Kasala and Vigo anymore, so let me swap them out for Zegrum and Jupus or whatever. So
okay, yeah. So there you go. So then at least it's acknowledging like these people are here. That's why you can swap them out. They're just hanging back, fighting other enemies, being lazy assholes.
I feel like the story you are experiencing is all 8 of them are going through it, and all 8 of them are fighting stuff all at the same time. But the game that you're experiencing is you get 3 to pick from at a time, and that's it's easy for me to be like, okay, well, this is the game that is telling this story.
Yeah, it's like it's just cause.
Yeah, and I really like it, but. Yeah, that about
Hold on.
Does it.
Speaking of cutscenes, we missed a Mark cutscene.
Oh yeah, I forgot the last 2 Mark cutscenes. Yeah, this is the Combo Bob. So y'all go ahead. I don't have notes on it.
Well, I don't actually remember there being 2 of them. I remember one where Mark just fucking dies. He's like
I did the Combo Bob earlier. I think it just depends.
Yeah. He shows up like when you go to save, and it's really annoying again. But he shows up and he's like, "Oh, Father, I'm so sleepy," and Dr. Pistachio's like, "No, Mark, no," and he's like, "I'm so tired," and Pistachio's like, "All right, you go to sleep," and then he fucking disappears, and Steve wakes up, and Steve's like, "What's going on?
What the fuck are you doing to me?"
Yeah, why am I here? And Dr. Fellatio's like, "Oh, I'm just working on your circuits while you're in sleep mode." Yeah, that's it. It's nothing to do with you being powered by the soul of a forsaken child or anything. No, not at all.
And you can't tell, but I'm chopping onions over to the side. That's why I'm crying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like cook dinner and also repair your circuits. It's fine. It always happens.
Yeah. So. Sorry to interrupt, but I had no chance to jump in there earlier.
No, it's fine.
Mark
I just forgotten about it.
Cool.
But yeah, so like at first I thought that Mark wasn't going to die because like you saw him flash out, and you're like, okay, well the next time we talk to him, he's going to die. And so then you get the Wombo combo, and the second one he doesn't even flicker out. He's just like, yeah, we're climbing the towers and everything's good and everything's awesome. And I'm like, okay, I guess it was just dramatic tension, but everything's going to be okay in the end. And then he died in the third one, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, that was it. Okay, that was why I didn't get them as 2 back to back, because we got that earlier in the towers, and then the Mark dies was after we had gotten out of the towers and we're back in Space DMV.
Okay.
And it was when we went to go save.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the rest of chapter 8. We managed to like get a full hour's worth.
Yeah,
hour and 20 something minutes. We did good. I'm glad we did Alistia. I almost want to go back and see how long we talked about Alistia, and then see how long this episode would have been if we had only done this one.
It was about it was like 50 minutes or something.
Yeah, so this would have been a 25-minute episode.
Yep.
So I'm glad we did Alistia because also it rocked. So yeah, what was everyone's part of the playthrough this week? I know it's all Alistia, but what specifically?
What specifically?
I like the stupid fucking fish people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty clear winner.
The pufferfish guy is absolutely hands down my favorite because he's got that like slack-jawed, dead-eyed pufferfish look, and then he talks like a normal dude, and he's got spikes on his belly where pufferfish don't even have spikes, but he just looks so. he just looks so dead-eyed, and I just love him.
And so you like in a lot of RPGs of this era, everyone always looks dead-eyed, but we've already established 2 episodes ago that they didn't do that with Rogue Galaxy. They like high-res painted on super awesome textures for everybody. So they got to the pufferfish and like, nah, dude, it'll be funnier if he just fucking stares at you with these dead-ass eyes.
He's just a fish.
Yeah.
He's just a fucking fish. And it just like the dolphin and the shark and the walrus all having more like personable humanoid eyes made sense. I feel like it would have with the fish too. Yeah, none of the fish, like the angelfish guys, like I also love their like super flat fish heads.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you people function.
That's actually my favorite one. Yeah, is the angelfish guys. That's my favorite one.
I ran into one of them on Vidan at one point, and I was just like, "This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." And I love it.
There's actually one in Zerard. I saw one very early on in Zerard, and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!"
But yeah, the Sleegs are the best race in all of JRPG history.
Yes,
the best
That's canon.
race, which apparently they are one race.
Yeah,
apparently.
But yeah, I loved it. My favorite part was probably the Zerard Tower I thought I had when I got halfway through it. Like that, like it was so much fun and so good. And like you got all of the story beats that you normally get. You got a mid-fight with Seed, like you have in all 3 of them. You had Desert Clock showing up to save the day, and then you had a fight, a boss fight at the end of it. You had all the story beats in the first half, and it was a long and rough journey, but I liked it anyways. But then I had to do it again.
The story beats in the first half, but then it turns out there's more bullshit you have to do for 5 more hours. What is this? A modern AAA Western video game?
Oh,
All of them.
But I just had something that it reminded me of, and I can't remember what it was, so I'll let it die. But yeah, it was good. I liked it until I didn't. What about you? Do you have any specific spiff?
My favorite thing was the thing I mentioned earlier about the open environment and being able to see the destination, the Dr. Wily Castle getting closer and closer, and that's cool. And then the hermit crab boss. It's just because it looks cute and crab in game.
Yeah, crab in game. So yeah, that about does it. Play us off, Keyboard Cat.
Is that me?
yes.
I'm Keyboard Cat. So that's all for this week, y'all. If you like what you hear and you want to help us cover our hosting costs and game costs and me sounding better and being a better human costs, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RPGbookclub. If you just want to chat, we have a Twitter at RPGbookclub, an email, rpgbookclub@gmail.com, and our favorite, the Discord, which doesn't have a great URL, so there's a link in the description. We are always chatting all the time, especially this week because E3 is coming up. We're all real hype about it. Woo! So expect a lot of all caps happening in the next week or so. So join us next.
Real quick, I just realized I forgot to put it in there. We also have merch at bit.ly/RPGmerch. We have t-shirts, phone cases, bath towels, etc. It's super great.
We have a RPG Book Club bath towel phone case.
Yeah.
Yes.
So next week we're going to be playing back to the old 2-chapter grind. We're playing Chapter 9, Mysteries of Eden, which hell yeah. Then we're doing Chapter 10, The Illusory Oasis. So we have both an Eden and an Oasis. So that's some pretty sick stuff.
Yeah. Ironically, Eden is the name of the virtual reality version of the internet in Digimon Cyber Sleuth, and Oasis is the name of the virtual reality version of the internet in Ready Player One. So that's the twist, is the same twist.
We're just going to other video games.
The same twist of Star Ocean 3 is that we're all in the Matrix. That's
one more prediction. We've been revisiting all of our different planets, and all these different planets we've been revisiting have been like, you've now been to all of the save points because this planet is done. You know what planet that didn't happen with? Rosa. When we went back to Rosa, the second trip to Rosa was not in fact the end. So Oasis, maybe it's a literal Oasis. Maybe we're going back to Rosa.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe
Never
so.
know.
For RPG Book Club, I have been Michael Spiffle Webben.
And I have been Sam Keyboard Cat Allman.
And I have been Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.